Have a roll call.
Mayor Truman.
Here.
Councilmember Colbert. Here. Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Bass.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Kerstetter. Councilmember Evans. Councilmember Stamp.
Here. And let's all stand for the invocation and pledge allegiance, please.
Let's pray. Father God, we just come and we thank you for freedom. We thank you for government, Lord, and we pray for these government officials today. Lord, you would just be with them, help them to honor you in all they do and say. Father, we pray for this free country and the elections going on right now. Pray you be honored in those as well. And Father, we thank you for the men and women that serve this community, and we pray your blessing upon them and your hand upon this meeting. Thank you, Lord, for their efforts and their service. We pray for those who serve in the safety realm, Lord, for fire, and for those who run the ambulances, Lord, from the fire department, the police department. Lord, we just lift up all the public officials in Valley Center, pray your protection upon them. And Father, we lift up the school system as they get ready to kick off this year. We pray that you would be glorified in that system as well. Lord, we thank you for this community, and we lift everything that goes on in this meeting tonight up to you. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Oh, that's your.
Moving on to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to the council minutes. Presentations. We have, all right.
We need to approve the minutes.
Do it. Oh, the minutes. Oh, yes, the minutes from the last meeting. Excuse me, I'm sorry. From the July 16th minutes. Any,
Move to approve the minutes of the July 16th, 2024 regular meeting as presented.
Second.
have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the July 16th meeting. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now moving on. Presentations. Commissioner Beatty.
Well, good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm going to give an update from Sedgwick County. I appreciate any sort of regular update. I think it does two things. One, I think it constituencies that there's partnership and there's communication that's happening. The second thing is it allows me the opportunity to get feedback, and this is really important, particularly with the issue tonight with manager recommended budget. I really want your insight, and I'd love your feedback as to how I can best serve the people of Valley Center. So I'm going to try my best to move really quickly through this because I see you got an agenda that's a busy agenda. So if you want to stop me, please do and ask questions, but I'm going to move fairly quickly through particularly some of the details on the staffing stuff. But first and foremost, I think it's important if you go back one slide, there's a lot of people, there's 13 people here on the Sedgwick County budget team. So it's important that I at least acknowledge that they spend a lot of time this is practically, for the most part, a year effort. The second we pass one budget, they only take a couple of weeks off and they get right into the next budget. So many of you know that feeling, but I would acknowledge the 13 people here. If you look at the next slide, for Sedgwick County, the budget process really begins with commissioners in February with budget workshops. And then we actually see the difference between Sedgwick County government with a lot of other forms of government is we actually see 46 departments come and give budget presentations to each commissioner. So there's a lot of engagement with all 46 departments as we actually craft the budget and then give recommendations to Manager Stoltz. If you'll see the overall budget goals from this budget process, there were really three goals that we gave Manager Stoltz. The first was we wanted to emphasize workforce. I think about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I gave you an update about the dire situation of staffing instability with Sedgwick County. Staffing instability, particularly in public safety, like 911 and EMS, the sheriff's office, it was impacting our capacity to perform good government service. And in public safety, if you have instability, it does impact people's safety and people's lives. So I'll give you an update on workforce here shortly, but we have continued work we're doing with workforce and compensation in particular. We also wanted to refocus on county core services. I have a theory of county government that we should stay within our bandwidth and do the things that we are called to do, most of it by statute, but also we want to empower the cities. We have 20 cities in Sedgwick County, and if we stay within our bandwidth, we can empower the cities to do the things that they need to do for their citizens as well as ours. So we wanted to really refocus on county core services. You'll notice that of our 46 departments, 16 of those 46 departments are actually mandated by the state, where we're actually a political subdivision of the state. So you think of the county clerk, the register of deeds, the county treasurer, corrections, elections, aging, and everybody's favorite, the county appraiser. These are things that we actually are required by state statute to hold these things. And to manage these things. So that's 16 of our 46 departments. And then we also talk a lot about reviewing the government role and partnerships in all operations. It's made the news a little bit, but there's been conversations about the Sedgwick County Zoo and Exploration Place and what is our appropriate role in these operations and organizations. And then lastly, we asked Manager Stolt to build us a budget that will cut the mill levy and limit the amount of valuation increases that we kept hearing this year. So those are the three goals. I'll give you just an update on kind of the state of the operations. We do have improved staffing. Over 3 years, Sedgwick County government has invested over $46 million in compensation increases just in 3 years. The input and the outputs are pretty relevant. When I gave you a presentation a year and a half ago, EMS had lost a third of their paramedics. The starting wage of a county firefighter was $14.60. Sheriff was down 112 deputies. ComCare was down 200 full-time employees. 911 was at 62% staffing. Every one of those departments now are over 90% staffing. Every one. And some of them at 100% staffing. So there's been a lot of work done to get staffing stabilities. And when you begin to look at response times and some of the other outputs, they're measurable and they have improved. The other thing that you know quite well is inflation has slowed, but the costs are still high. And there are remnants of it in the supply chain. You get it too. You see it too. The cost of government is increasing for all of us. There's other major projects and community issues that are on the forefront. Talk about the psychiatric hospital that's coming, ComCare crisis that's coming. The conversations in bigger parts of my district in Wichita are a lot around homelessness and behavioral health, but these are also human issues that are impacting Valley Center, Park City, and Mays as well. So these are community conversations that continue. As we began this year, in January this year, we had no structural imbalance for county government. There was one Wednesday meeting in January to where the sheriff came in response to the city of Wichita and Wichita Police Department, we had to take some corrective action and we gave them an 8.7% raise at the sheriff's office. And that one number right there, $4.9 million, is the result of that structural imbalance. Of our 28.9 mils of property tax, the sheriff department alone, one of our 46 departments, is 11 of our 28.9 mils of property tax. So 8.7% raise to the sheriff's office resulted in $4.9 million of a structural imbalance. Some of the recommended adjustments, I'm just going to fly through this here, is again on employee compensation. You can see some of the things that were worked on here. I'll take you to the bottom number. In this budget, we have $16.7 million in compensation adjustments just for 2025. Again, one of the focuses on staffing stability. Compensation is not all of that equation, but it's a big part of that equation. Remember, I told you that the starting wage of a county firefighter when I started was $14.60. That number is now up above $21. So there's been significant adjustments made in compensation. And again, $16.7 million just in this year alone. But that's also helped deliver the stability that we have today. Some of the staffing changes and adjustments in FTEs, emergency communications, that's 911. We have 10 positions coming, full-time positions, and we're actually redoing the entire department in regards to dispatchers and modernizing that response. We're going to have specific dispatchers for fire, for police, for EMS. So we have a big overhaul in 911 in regards to modernizing that department. Our 911 services get 1,100 calls a day. 1,100 calls a day. Many of the people calling 911 are having the worst moment of their lives. So we obviously have to make sure that our staff that are receiving those calls are well equipped to do that. And the morale in the department is equally as important to the compensation in the department. 6 positions in Sedgwick County Fire, and then obviously DA's office, EMS, and IT. I will tell you, part of the staffing adjustment in 2023, Sedgwick County government had $9 million in overtime expense. And a lot of that was due to mandatory overtime because of staffing instability. So as the numbers begin to play themselves out, we truly believe that as we get more stability and get back up to full staff, that overtime number will significantly decrease. We're already seeing it in the sheriff's office. He's down, went from 112 deputies down to about 23 deputies down now in the sheriff's office. A couple other things, obviously some infrastructure, 28.8 million is going to county building improvements. A big part of that is the juvenile community-based building. This is a campus for juvenile detention and juvenile residential facility. There's a lot going into this conversation. I'd love to brief you on it separately, but it's a significant lift to try to get more preventative in juvenile services instead of just reactive. And for many years, particularly in foster care, which is a state issue, but I'd love to talk about it, we've been very reactive instead of preventative. Some of the things we're going to do in this new campus is going to be more preventative to get upstream. We also have $760,000 for a drainage project. That's the old big ditch. That's, as you know, Wichita and Sedgwick County split 50-50 on the maintenance piece of that. There was an article in the Wichita Eagle here recently about what could we do with some of those levees, and could we actually make it more of an amusement park than what it's built designed for. There are some numbers that I just got from our county engineer that if we did not protect those levees and those levee walls, that a third of the people, if we get audited from the Army Corps of Engineers, and if we fail an audit, a third of the people in Sedgwick County would have to purchase flood insurance. So making sure that we have these levee walls well structured is a big part of what we do. So 760,000 is going to that, and then 19 million for roads and bridges. And then there's some downside to this budget as well. We are reducing cultural arts funding by $1 million, not because we don't value the zoo and exploration place, which is 2 of the 13 departments, but it's simply funding them via property tax dollars. My personal opinion is not a recipe for long-term stability. And we've got to find other revenue sources. And this is one step in trying to reduce the dependency on property taxes in those organizations. Mind you, the zoo has a $60 million economic output for the community. Exploration Place has nearly a $40 million economic output. So these are significant for all of us in Sedgwick County. So protecting them is an important part of what we do. We got to get them off property tax dependence. We're also going to reduce the mill levy, a third of the mill for Sedgwick County, and then the fire district will more than 2/3 of the mill of property tax. So we're, again, the second year in a row of no levy reduction. And if the manager's budget passes, it'll be the lowest mill levy in 27 years for Sedgwick County government. And then again, there were $6.3 million of department requests that we did not approve. All of these were good requests, but not everything can get into this budget. And then lastly, we're going to do a $1.1 million revenue package for EMS to build them a new station. So if here's the consensus here. Sedgwick County's budget, $563.4 million. The fire district's $30.1, totaling $593.5 million. The mill levy rate to fund about $200 million of that $593 million. I'm sorry, the 563 for Sedgwick County will be around $200 million of a property tax levy. That's 28.659 mils. And then Sedgwick County Fire District will come from 17.9 mils all the way down to 17 mils for $30 million there. So, and then last slide, see how this thing breaks down. The bulk of what we do at Sedgwick County government is public safety. 39% of what we do. We have 7 public safety departments. Public safety is going to see an increase in compensation and investment of about 6%. And that makes up the bulk of what we do in Sedgwick County. So that is about as quick as I can run through a 480-page recommended budget book. We actually have just had our first public hearing on July 31st. We'll have our second one August 21st. And then we'll adopt the budget same day, August 21st at 9 a.m. We'll have the budget adoption. There's going to be some adjustments made. I think we're probably about 98% there. I think the manager put together a good budget for us, but there will be some adjustments made in this budget. But I feel pretty confident we'll pass a good one on August 21st. So that is the rundown. I'd love to stand for questions and get your feedback.
Any questions? Matt?
Again, thank you for coming. Appreciate the update. You talk about the exploration place in the zoo. Do county residents pay cheaper than out-of-county residents to go to those?
They're great questions. So part of what we do at the zoo, this is a really unique relationship. We're on a 50-year operating agreement with the zoo. Happened long before I got there. our funding to the zoo is $9.2 million a year, property tax dollars. They're actually funding 112 positions. So these are full-time employees at the zoo. It's a different relationship. The Exploration Place is different. We only have one employee at Exploration Place, the director, and then we give a $2.2 million subsidy for operations. They have some numbers to where the ticket prices do come down. The zoo, they come down about $10 because of our contribution, and Exploration Place does a lot of free events, particularly for Title IX schools, but I've never seen a calculation on what it does for ticket prices. But with public dollar investment, we expect that the ticket prices are impacted to make it more accessible.
And you talked about the City of Wichita Police Department raising their price where you guys had to jump yours, which leads me to this question. I know I've listened to county meetings and you've talked about consolidation of services. Is that something that would possibly solve that problem to where you're not competing against each other? You're all one happy unit?
Well, I appreciate the question, Councilman. You do watch a lot of county commission meetings, apparently. I am not a believer in full consolidation like a Wyandotte model on a personal level. I don't believe in unified government. But if I look as a business person, I look at what Sedgwick County does, and I look at the 20 cities and all the things they do, my mind looks at all the shared services that could happen. And I have a kind of a litmus test. If we can gain efficiencies and save taxpayer dollars, I think everything should be under consideration for shared services. I think you're seeing what I'm seeing. Is the cost of government is increasing for everyone. There are ways to cut and reduce some things, but I'll tell you, Sedgwick County government's pretty lean. In my view, the way forward to actually counter cost of government increases, to actually modernize local government in more ways and share more services. I think reform is the way other than cutting, particularly for Sedgwick County government. So there's a lot of opportunities for that. We begin to look at, if we just talk about Wichita and Sedgwick County, we have animal control. We have animal control. They have environmental resources. So do we. There's just up and down the list. And the golden goose is fire. We can save millions of dollars and provide better protection in our community if we had consolidated fire. These are things I talk about frequently, which you've heard. Mm-hmm. But these are conversations that need to continue. I'm done.
Anybody else? Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Okay, moving on, I have a proclamation today. Proclamation for Purple Heart. Whereas the people of Valley Center have great admiration and utmost gratitude for all the citizens of our community who has selflessly served in the armed forces, which has been vital maintaining the freedom and the way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas citizens of our community have been wounded in action or killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration and was created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth and shaped of a heart with the word merit sewed in on it, on August 7th, 1782 in Newsburg, New York by General George Washington. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart. Whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Day, therefore, I, James C. Truman Jr., Mayor of Valley Center, Kansas, will proclaim August 7th as Purple Heart Day and urge people and organizations of Valley Center to display the American flag as well as other public expressions of recognition of our Purple Heart recipients. In witness thereof, I set my hand, cause the seal of Valley Center to be affixed, done at the City of Valley Center, Kansas, August 6th, 2024. So there it is, and we salute them all. Moving on to the public forum. Is there anyone here from the public who'd like to address the council on anything that's not on the agenda? Moving on to new business then. Item A, the waiver request for Rio Bella Edition.
Good evening. Eric Glover, 1995 Midfield Road. Thanks. Yeah.
It's not a short drill.
I took it that way. Wichita 67209. Agent for the applicant. Rio Bella Edition is at 77th Street North and West Street, just west of the river. We're looking to do estate size lots. The characteristics of the neighborhood across the street, across 77th Street, are asphalt mat roads and ditches. To the northwest, it's asphalt mat road and ditches. We would actually be matching the size of the lots. We're putting lots that abut 77th Street. They'll match the size of the lots across the street. The size of the lots interior to the subdivision will be slightly larger, somewhere between 2 and I think the largest is like 4.5 acres. The drainage will be controlled by ditches. The ditches will be graded to flow. They will not hold water. The water will go to the south. There's a little drainage way, and then a bulk of the water will go directly to the river. We are serving this community with Valley Center Water. As part of this project, we're extending the water main under the river and down 77th Street. That'll be a larger main to carry water further to the west in the future. So that main will be upsized with future extension in mind. So I'll stand for any questions.
Well, I have several.
Sure.
Mine personally. I'm a victim or happenstance of Windmill Valley, which is the good example of that, what Valley Center does not want to do in a housing development.
Sure.
And I'm not, me personally, not in favor of putting ditches in. You grade to a curb, you got a good line, you got good drainage. You go to a ditch and you've got issues. Somebody's ditch is holding water, they fill it. And 20 years from now, the culverts will be full. Who's going to maintain those when that starts going up? I don't know anybody that maintains ditches when the water starts backing up. We don't want to tear up anybody's yard. We don't want to do this. Another comment that I have, I drove out to Centura. I drove out there today because you referenced that. I drove out there today and looked, and in my honest opinion, it looks like something that was developed and abandoned.
Well,
Because
to be fair, there's
with
no houses out there yet.
with the pavement, and then you got the clay on the sides, the shoulders, there's grass growing up in it, there's weeds growing up in it, and nobody mows it, or nobody's going to take care of it. Nobody's going to hit them rocks with the mowers. And it's an eyesore just to drive out there, even though it's not developed. I can't, me personally, there's a lot out there I'd like to have, but it doesn't even look appealing to me now when I drive out there.
I think you would find that almost any subdivision prior to being developed does not look very appealing.
Well,
I mean, that's just the nature of development. And we have learned our lesson from Cetera with the rock shoulder. We will be extending the asphalt wider to make the road wider, and will not be doing that same type of shoulder on that. That was, it was a good idea, but did not work out very well. So that I do agree that those shoulders are not working out very well, and the grass is growing up through them. To be fair, with the grass growing through it, the vegetation does help soil hold in place.
I understand that.
Yeah, so
I understand.
they will be stable, but at the moment they're not very.
But I mean, you drive out there, you're going to spend a couple $1 million on a lot at a house, and it just doesn't look appealing. right now,
Well, yeah,
you know,
that's
and that's not even, that's even coming in the driveway. So I'm real concerned about that. My first experience as mayor, when we decided that additions weren't going to come in like Windmill Valley anymore, was Fiddler's Creek. Our administrator lives in Fiddler's Creek. We had paved roads, we had gutters, we had drainage. There's not an empty lot out there now, you know, and it looks nice. I drove through it too, and it's just
but
day and night difference.
well, I appreciate that. That was one of the first subdivisions I worked on. That was 25 years ago. So, I mean, it's had a chance.
Well,
to
that's
fill
dating
up.
me too, see.
Yeah. I mean, that's had a chance to fill up. I've been designing residential subdivisions for 25 years, and without a doubt, before there's houses built in there, the developers don't necessarily do a good job of mowing down the weeds. But you know, as homeowners get in there and spend money on the landscaping, especially the level of houses that we're talking about, you know, 750 million and a half plus houses, that it will look nice. But that's a process. The other alternative, because infrastructure is expensive right now, and you can't do these size of lots as expensive as land is. A way to cut costs, if you were to put storm sewer in here, it would double the cost of the infrastructure in the subdivision. And based on that, you would not be able to get the return on investment for these size of lots, and the only other alternative is density. So without being able to cut costs and save money on infrastructure, the response from the development community is going to be density. So if you do want to see these estate-sized lots, these larger homes, and it fits the area, the characteristics of the area. The streets just to the north in the subdivision are exactly the same. The streets in that whole area are that way. So it's no different than anything else in that area. It will be graded to drain. Now, is it going to be perfect? I am not going to lie to you and tell you that I can come back in 10 years and there's not going to be a few bird baths, but I can show you valley gutter returns and cul-de-sac heads in Wichita and Sedgwick County, just because we don't have any grade. And the slightest of errors in 0.3% in a concrete street leaves you bird baths. So yeah, it's not going to be perfect, but we will be able to provide positive drainage through the ditches in this area.
Okay, now the other question I have is for Brent or Rodney, I guess, is if we're putting water out there, why can't we put sewer out there? I mean, our future development's going to be west, and it seems like it's a good place to start.
Great question, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Great question, Mayor. And one of those is really just due to costs right now, financially, when it comes to a sewer lift station that would have to be put in. It's a lot easier to move water. Water builds its own pressure, and you don't have to bore lines as deep as you do with sewer, especially when crossing a river. And so in this area, we're I think it's estimated around a little over $500,000 for the water side, and it was substantially more for the sewer. I mean, you're easy 1.7 or higher. Just sewer, 1.7.
It seems like we got to start somewhere, to me, my own personal opinion.
Absolutely.
Is we gotta
Our sewer
start
fund
somewhere.
is getting so close to having that debt service come off that it would be fantastic to maybe, if we are to explore that at some point, to combine that when we do something with the aeration basin project. That's going to be, in that 7 million, $5 to $7 million range, to do something at that time to parlay it with. But, and that's what we plan to do with the water treatment plant, is to issue, potentially some debt along with that, so that it doesn't really change the payments much for the enterprise fund. So remember, the utilities, are a separate enterprise fund than those property tax levies.
Because there's a lot of farm ground being sold out there west. this side of the big ditch. That's
Yes,
future
this is inside
development.
city limits
That's-
now.
that's
The areas
what
that
I'm-
you're speaking of are not currently inside city limits. And so tonight, though, the first step before we even get to consideration of water and all those things is to see if the waivers pass first. Is very similar to what process we've gone through with other subdivisions prior to putting a lot of expense and engineering designs into extending water and those things. So that will be back up before the council prior to those final decisions being made. But first before you is the waiver on not only the stormwater, but also the sidewalk, and then the advanced septic systems. Want to make sure that's clear.
Okay.
Any other questions, Mayor?
not from me, but we've got Matt.
I just want to comment on your ones about looking abandoned. You want to see one that looks abandoned, you go out on 77th, one out by 81 Speedway that's built, and I can't think of what it's called. You can't even see the entryway sign.
Yeah, I've seen that one too.
Drawn. So, but again, that's how developments are. I see them all the time until they get built. They are not very good at mowing them. But they can be a letter sent by the city, code enforcement saying you need to mow and control the lots. On the, go ahead.
Well, and also too, I did forget, you mentioned the maintenance side of it. Within our subdivisions now, the HOA is required to maintain those ditches, and so it's not a city responsibility. And that's written into, the plat and all the information when we pass them out. So that's a little different too than Windmill Valley. Windmill Valley also wasn't designed to drain.
Okay. Looks like Dale. Robert? No.
Mr. Clark, you might
I'm
stay
sorry.
up there.
Yes, sir.
On the ATUs, can you just remind me what the minimum lot size is for those specialized units for the sanitary disposal? Just want to make sure. I think these lots are large enough. I just want to make sure that we're,
Yes, they're
As a
playing
reminder.
large enough. We actually have deploying them right now on half-acre lots.
thank you.
And so I think half acre is pretty much minimum when it comes to these types of systems. We really follow the Central County code book when it comes to the inspection and the square footage requirements for advanced septic systems.
Excellent, thank you.
Ronnie gave a thumbs up, so I assume I'm correct.
Perfect.
Clint?
First question's for you.
Yes, sir.
And I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but with that bigger size of water line going out, how much can that service out west?
Oh, we will
For
design
increasing
it
the
to
size.
go all the way to Ridge.
Okay.
So it'll absolutely go all the way to the far west boundary
Okay,
of our city limits.
gotcha. And then my second question is Mr. Glover. So with houses, the valuation this size, have you had any neighborhoods that you guys have done where it was on their own septic system?
Yeah, the one that we've gone through already, that was included,
Okay,
and it does have its own sewer.
gotcha.
And we are leaving a 40-foot utility easement along 77th Street for any future city utilities that need to go through there. We are leaving a corridor for anything that could need to be extended in the future.
Appreciate it.
Brent is doing a good job of thinking about extending those utilities in the future.
And yes, if you do recall, that was the only area that we needed to make it all the way west. And so we did get that final area secured thanks to Rio Bella.
Mr. Glover, I'm going to kind of echo or talk about what Jet said. I was a former victim or resident of Windmill Valley. Thank you. The thing I see different with this property is the proximity to the river. Is that the case as far as the drainage on this? I mean,
That helps a ton. I
okay,
mean, if you move this field the next road, then you're talking a few feet of fall across it, where the river gives us the advantage of allowing us a lot more fall because that property actually has a lot more relief than we get to deal with, honestly, from doing work in this area.
okay.
So
And Brent answered my other question about the cost to
get the water out there. So approximate cost, that was my next question. So, and to be clear, the development pays for the water lines as part of their specials in there. We just have to get the water to the development.
The city, we'll pay for the 8-inch line, which would serve the community. The city would cover the upsize. So our development would need an 8-inch line. If we needed to push a 16 for your future development, the city would cover the difference.
For future expansion, correct? Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be a partnership on that.
Okay, thank you.
Matt?
On the sidewalk issue, I'm all for sidewalks. Pushing my grandson around town today, you realize how much like
Yeah.
sidewalks. You said you was gonna make the road wider. How much wider are you gonna make it?
It'll be 3 feet wider.
Is it something you guys could look at? I know I worked for the city of Derby in the engineering department. They had done a subdivision, same as that in Soterra, where they have a lane marked off for a sidewalk. Granted, it's part of the street, but it's marked off for,
Kind of like a bike lane.
yeah. Is that something
I
you could
think
possibly
the
look at?
Developers would be amenable to that. I don't see why that would be a
Just on
problem.
one side, don't have to be
Sure.
both sides, just on one. Now, people will still drive on it,
Yeah,
but still it kind of marks an area for people to walk. Okay,
absolutely.
thank you.
Anything else?
Motion to approve request for waiver of subdivision regulations for Rio Bella addition.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, but I have a public comment here that's for this item also, so we need to do that before we take a vote. Yeah. Oh, okay. So we don't have public comment, so, okay, we have a motion.
Let me clarify in the discussion there. So are you approving the waiver for all of them, or are you wanting to change to then have the sidewalk bike lane be within the pavement? Because I want to make sure that that's clear in the motion and what is discussed and voted on here tonight.
I'm all right for the waiver, but it'd be nice for them to look at that option, but I'm not holding them to it.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're all clear on what we're.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I should have
I
specified
appreciate
that.
that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the waiver request. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify for raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to item B, the final fund agreement, the City of Valley Center and Rec Commission.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, once again. Before you is a special project fund agreement with the Central Kansas Community Foundation, the Valley Center Rec, and or the Recreation Commission, as well as the City of Valley Center. What this really boils down to is a request to partner with our own local Valley Center Community Foundation, and then they're underneath their umbrella, which is actually they're under the Central Kansas Community Foundation umbrella, to get a tax ID. So to get a tax exempt status ID for the fundraising side of the Recreation and Aquatic Center. So if you recall way back, I cannot believe I'm going to say this, 4 years ago, wow, time flies, in 2020, when we were dealing with a little pandemic, is when we started this whole thing and went to the vote of the people. And even during, I think, one of the first if not second YouTube videos, you go back, we did talk about fundraising. We're going to continue to do that. We are fundraising $2.1 million is the goal. We have not lost sight of that. We were holding back a little bit until the school bond was passed, because people somehow think it's still a school facility, even though it's not in any way, shape, or form a school facility. But now we can really start the fundraising effort. And so for that, of course, people do like to have those tax credits when it comes to those contributions and donations. We'll have different levels, starting at $500,000 all the way down to $50,000. If you do want to donate funds and have your name on a locker room or those type of placards for $50,000. And so, these folks that contribute these, a lot of times come from other foundations, and so those tax credits are key and critical to really fundraise $2.1 million in about 10 months. And so that's what this agreement is doing, is partnering with them to get a tax exempt status. So we do follow all the IRS requirements.
Ron?
Yeah, I just have one question. You know, mentioned the funding and the fundraising. Is that, what's the period of time? Does that run out or is it going to be extended?
And so this fundraising effort will be for the principal contribution to pay down that bond. And so to pay down the total overall debt towards the building itself. Now, some endowments, they do like to pledge over a number of years. And so they will be able to pledge for multiple years per this agreement as well. And that's just a separate agreement that they enter into with Central Kansas Foundation that then really helps us monitor those funds, making sure that we're receiving that revenue annually. So, let's say that some folks, want to contribute that $500,000 and they want to do it over 3 years because that works better financially for their plan. Then we would be able to accept those kind of donations as well.
Gina?
I'm one of those people who think that the rec commission is part of the school district. I understand that we own the building,
Yes.
but I think that the school district needs to be acknowledged in this in some way because they fund the rec commission.
So they set the mill levy for the rec commission. It's very similar
And
to
collect
us in
the
library.
taxes.
Yep, very close to us in the library. And so we don't control their day-to-day operations. They have a separate library board, just like the rec commission has a separate rec board. That actually, we have 2 representatives that you appoint to serve on that board. And so that's why the school district doesn't need to be named in this, just like we aren't named in everything the library agrees to.
Okay. If you say so.
But I do understand that it's very close working relationships, but yeah. So otherwise, the rec commission would have a separate levy that they would pass and they actually levy on your taxes and not be, lumped in with the school and not have to be voted on by the school board. They'd have their own separate, guidelines and charters.
Any other questions?
I make a motion to approve funding agreement with Central Kansas Community Foundation, authorize mayor or city administrator to sign.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the fund agreement between the City of Valley Center and the Rec Commission. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify for raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to item C, the agreement with Sedgwick County for Harvest Place drainage improvement.
Good evening once again, Mayor and Council. I am beyond excited. This has been a long time coming. And so this before you is an agreement with Central County for our partnership when it comes to finally resolving after former Mayor Cicerello, 40 years, if not more than 40 years of drainage issues in the creation of our North Valley Center pond. I figured Mr. Jared West would be in the audience this evening. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us. I'm not sure why. But we are going to finally fix the drainage issue on the north side of Valley Center.
I'm sorry, that's kind of like the drainage ditch. These are just things that need to be done.
So working on this now for everybody. I mean, I think day one, I was introduced to this when I first started as city administrator at Valley Center. Started with Commissioner Cruz, really leading the charge. Previous commissioners were not as easily approached when it comes to this situation. I don't know, family, friends, or what have you, but I do know that the former commissioners were not interested in partnering on these things. And so, started with one public works director, Mr. David Spear. And he said, there's no way that this will ever get done in my lifetime. He retired a while ago. I'm not sure where he is now. And then we went to another county public works director. Mr. Jim Weber, and he was really excited for this project. He goes, "We're going to get this done." He retired before this could be done, but now Lynn Packer, who was his assistant, Lynn is the one to finally get this issue resolved. We annexed land in between the high school and middle school. We partnered with the county instead of the county having to go in and condemn and take by eminent domain a stretch across the Rowley property to put a ditch in. We're like, well, that will sure spur development. Let's put a ditch across the middle of the property. That's great. And we're able to work with them, found a developer to purchase the land, not only to bring in a ton of housing, but also to put our own rec center and aquatic complex that's going to open in January. So this property, 5 years, it's taken a lot of work to get to this point. And so the county is proposing a partnership like we've discussed in terms of 1 million, killing me. $1,157,427.70 down to the penny when it comes to the county budget, because that's how we work, and partner on resolving the drainage issue on the west side of Meridian, just north that is still county ground. The Wilson Girls LLC, that ground just north of the Tree Row on the north side of Northwind. And then also bringing that across into 18 acres of different ponds that will be in a harvest place that you've all passed. And we're going to hopefully get started with the grading plan here, and dirt will be moving tentatively end of September, beginning October this year. And then moving it down south, then through the golf course area, through Emporia, and then to our 5th Street pump station there, and then pumping it to the ditch. And so, thinking that you're going to have it one way when you start the drainage process, and thinking you just cut into the ditch and have it flow like the one it did over by the TIF district, to then changing and going, oh, the Corps will not let you do that. So let's figure out another way. And SEH has done a great job with engineering a really beautiful development for the community with those 18 acres of lakes and ponds. And so, this is really going to help transform that north area in between the high school and middle school. We would not be able to financially afford doing this without the county's support and their participation. The county has helped fund a lot of projects in Valley Center. And so when you see Commissioner Beatty, when you see that our commissioners in Central County, make sure you tell them thank you. Valley Center appreciates everything that you've done for us, not only financially, but also when it comes in terms of the in-kind donations of the inspectors. We have the best inspectors on our projects with construction inspections. They work right alongside with PEC, but the county folks are doing. Those are county employees on Meridian UC. And so, this is another strong showing and contract agreement between the entities and resolving an issue that's been plaguing this area for many, many years. So it comes with great excitement. I know it's a long-winded response, but I think this one deserves it because of how much and how many different people have touched this project over the course of those years. So thank you to everybody who helped pave the way to get this done. We couldn't have done it without the first one saying that there's an issue, and the loudest one, the last one with the biggest banner at the end of the day. So we appreciate everyone's emails and concerns to the commissioners over those 50 years. I'll stand for any more questions.
Clint?
I'll preface this question with that I'm in support of this, but in light of Dell not being here, our 1.15 million, where's that money coming from?
No, that's how much the county's paying us.
The total cost of the project's 2.3.
Yes, the rest is paid by developers.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Gotcha.
Any other questions?
I move to approve the agreement with Sedgwick County for Harvest Place drainage improvements and authorize the mayor or city administrator to sign.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agreement for Harvest Place Phase 1 with the Sedgwick County. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to ordinance 1408-24.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Please, hopefully this will be one of the last times I have to come before you because Kyle is going to be the one taking care of this moving forward here very, very shortly, like now. Before you is a rezoning ordinance for the first reading. This is the area SM Estates. This is on the south side of 77th. This is an area just recently was platted. The final plat approved about a month, 2 months ago now. I apologize, I missed a deadline when it came to sending out notices to the public around the adjacent properties, sent it out for the plat, but I failed to put it on the rezoning side. And so that's why this is a little bit delayed, where this is typically a little bit closer when it comes to the platting process. So this is rezoning the property from A1 to RR1, which is suburban residential district. These are 5 lots that are for sale. I think 1 or 2 might have already sold, but it's just to change it to more of the residential lots than the agricultural lots to allow for single-family homes and just a different now that it's platted versus the large acreage lot. Dan, for any questions?
Questions?
Oh, this does come with favorable recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Board. And then also I did receive one inquiry from the property owner to the west. She was just more curious on what this meant. She didn't have any concerns, just, does this affect my property?
Motion to approve the Valley Center Planning and Zoning Board. City staff recommends adoption of ordinance 1408-24 for first reading.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1408-24 for rezone. First reading. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, moving on to the water treatment plant Phase 1 amendment.
Good evening once again, Mayor and Council. This is related to not costs. I know, hold on. I said it. Not related to costs. This is from KDHE when it comes in terms of the Kansas State Revolving Loan Fund, which we are applying for, and we're in the process. We actually received our no significant findings, which is huge. When you get your FONSI back and there's no significant findings, you wait the 30 days, and that means there's no archaeological digs that have to occur. There's no bones. There's no special creatures of the wetland. Things there. It's a really big milestone. Councilman Sam probably could attest to that. That when you go through those things, it can have a lot of fun on your projects. But this is to clarify. When it comes in terms of the requirements, when it comes to in terms of KDHE's SRF process and provisions that their contracts have at the state level. So then we don't have any issues when it comes to the SRF funds, which is a 30-year low interest rate loan. Hopefully, I think right now, Clint, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the letter we received was around that 2.9, 2.7, 2.9% interest rate over those 30 years, which is fantastic still. And so we do want to make sure that we comply with all of their requirements when it comes to the contracts between us and the design builders process. When it comes to that as well, we will enter into an agreement with PEC for a third-party review on the behalf of the city. That is a mandatory request by KDHE as well. So just to give you a heads up for that. Dan, for any questions?
Move to approve the amendment for the water treatment plant Phase 1 and authorize mayor or city administrator to sign.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the water treatment plant Phase 1 amendment. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to Resolution 75624. Declaration of water emergency.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So as most of us know, due to the ongoing drought conditions, the city of Wichita has moved into their stage 2 of their drought response plan, which includes some mandatory water conservation measures. Since we are a wholesale customer of theirs, we actually buy treated water from them. We are bound to respond in like. So what we're bringing forth for you this evening, as part of our ordinance 743 and chapter 1214 water conservation, in order to officially put these measures in order, we need to adopt a resolution to enact declare a water emergency. So what we're bringing forth to you is we recommend that you go ahead and approve Resolution 755-24, declaring a water emergency. This will allow the city administrator, as well as myself, to carry out some of the steps laid out in chapter 1214 of our water conservation.
Councilman Colbert?
Plan to have these measures in effect starting for 2 months to get through the high irrigation months. And they're looking for a 10% reduction in water use.
He just answered my question.
Okay, Matt?
Would it be wise to put something in there about if you have well water, to put a sign out in your yard saying I'm running well water? I've worked for 2 other cities that it's in their ordinance that if you're on well water, to say I'm on. Now, I've adjusted mine to only run on Thursdays, but some people are still going to run them
So we did
6 days a
discuss
week.
this, and in the city of Wichita's ordinance, it does state that.
Oh, okay.
However, the city of Wichita provides those signs. So it also states if you need one of those signs, come by and get one of these signs. So we would, if we require that, we'd probably provide those signs. We would want to alter our ordinance. We, at Public Works, Katie Lechner and I worked on a method of getting this out in case of violations. And we have door hangers that explains the ordinance that you're violating, and then along with a whole paper listing out the procedures. And it says on there, irrigation wells are excluded and a number to call.
Okay. So you've looked at, that's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if we give them if you get an ordinance, if you get a door hanger for watering it at the wrong time, you know you're a well user, call 755-7320. Let us know your address, that you've got that notice mistakenly. We'll make note of that address, and then otherwise it's very, very difficult for us to know whether you're on a well or not.
My well's in my front yard, but a lot of people's are in their backyard. You don't see them.
Right.
Well, another great point of that, we're in a valley. A lot of people have irrigation wells when it comes to the city. So, I mean, just with expense, and most of them you can see, but you'll have to, really go out of your way to try to violate these orders, before we, start imposing fines or forced to start imposing fines. And so, I think the door hangers and what the Public Works Department has come up with is a great way to strive to, locate those folks, make sure if they do have a well that we note down their address. We keep track of that. So then if somebody does call in a complaint of saying, oh, my neighbor's watering, I can't, but they can, what's going on? Well, they do have an irrigation well, it's documented. We do have a lot of them in the front yards. So we'll be able to see, and hopefully folks can use common sense when it comes to seeing those wells before they call in their neighbors.
The state also has a pretty good website. They track all the wells, all the information about it. That's another asset you can go look at to verify they have it. That's it. Thank you.
And another point on this is one of the stages is we're reducing watering to 1 day a week, but to go one step further, we're asking that you water between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. So that makes it fairly easy to notice if there's a possible violation or somebody's watering during the day. Well, okay, then you're going to look into it.
Does the city of Wichita, did they put an end date on their ordinance?
They just stated that they're going to do it for 2 months to try to get through the irrigation time at this point in time. They haven't really stated a date.
2 months.
Because they also said they're looking for a 10% reduction.
I guess my only issue is the fall reseeding so that is one of those slides that talk, if you want to go back up. So that's something that we're obviously you're going to, if you overseed or put in a new lawn, you're going to have to be able to water, and you can still do that beyond 2 months from now, right?
Overseed your lawn.
But if the city of Wichita is 2 months, why did we not follow what they're doing and kind of stated at 2 months?
No, they're hopeful it's going to be 2 months.
But there's not an end date in their actual ordinance.
No, there's not an actual end date. They're hoping, and they're going to review it in 2 months.
Let's make sure we review this in 2 months.
Yes, and then we'll have to pass another resolution, declaring the disaster or to remove us from the declaration.
Okay.
Of the water restrictions and conservation.
Gotcha.
So now, if everyone follows, suit and everyone follows guidelines, then when we see that, or Wichita sees that 10% reduction, then they might lift that and go back to a level 1 that we've been in for over a year.
Yeah.
So, we've been in a level 1 for a long time, on and off for many years. And so, now just moving to this is because of not the folks not following the voluntary,
right?
Restrictions, or not restrictions, but voluntary water reduction in terms of usage. Now, I do want to make a few points now because I think it's important. One, sorry, splash pads caught me off track here. Our splash pads are pump and dumps, and so they are not recirculating pumps. Those do not have their own filtration systems. Those are just, we pump the water, we dump the water. And so that's why our splash pads have to be closed. Now, if we wanted to spend an extra $300,000, $400,000 when we install those, we absolutely too could have had those pumps and filtration systems. Yes, I said that much. It's expensive. Now, also, we did exclude, which was great. And we read and actually talked with Gary Jansen with the city of Wichita. So we did exclude all gardens, vegetable gardens when it comes to vegetable gardens. And so those are excluded. So you can water those. And also, too, this is going to push back our planting of the trees down Meridian. Now, I'm not saying it's going to make it so where we do not plant trees. It's just going to push back the date of when we plant new trees along Meridian between Main and 5th. I know I saw, Neil out, today along with Roger Stewart. Neil was wearing a fantastic hat, looking at areas to put those trees. But with this, restriction, we don't want to water those. We also don't want to plant trees and, plant 78 potential trees where we removed 46. That might be closer to that, end of September, October, maybe over November, depending upon whatever the arborists say. I'm not a tree expert. That's why we have Neil and Roger Stewart leading that charge to figure out the best time to plant those trees. Another big thing that you should know is once we have our own water treatment plant, we would not have this level 2 go into effect. If we had our own water treatment plant today, our wells would be able to handle our consumption for a community of our size. And so with way that we're building the treatment plant, we would not have to go into this level 2 at this time. Not saying we would never have to, but just not right now at this time, because our well levels are still doing great. We're still pumping as much water as we possibly legally can to the city of Wichita, and is a great sign that our well maintenance program is doing its job, and we're being able to pump as much water as we can. So we did have our own treatment plant, shaking the crystal ball 2 years ago from now, 2 years previous, then we would not be having this issue, and we'd be charging Wichita a nice premium to buy water. Thank you.
That's a very good point, Brent. What triggered this was the levels of Cheney Reservoir. The levels of Cheney Reservoir fell beneath 69%. However, your Equus beds are still at 94%. So big difference from groundwater to surface water.
Clint, you have anything? Any more questions?
I make a motion to adopt resolution 755-24 declaring a water emergency in the city of Valley Center.
Second.
Have a motion and second to approve resolution number 756-24. Declaration of the water emergency. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Moving on to the request for ordinance 17.60-1 waiver.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you is a request from a resident to request to stay longer than 14 days in RV. This is a camper, temporary. We've done this in the past when it comes to staying temporarily in a camper that exceeds 14 days. We did put a restriction on this for 6 weeks. The applicant's letter is attached that does state, their situation. Basically, they had to vacate where they were living. They're in the process of renovating this home. They didn't realize when they started renovating it that some of the walls, when you start removing them, there's maybe some things behind those walls that they're hiding that may or may not pass inspections. And so they don't have the funds to maybe do some of those rehabs at the current time to make the actual structure itself pass our code inspectors thorough eyes when he's reviewing properties for inspections. And so this is how this kind of came to light. And so they're asking for a waiver of 14 days so then they don't have to go stay in a campground, that they can stay on the property that they own while they're fixing those renovations and making that house, be able to get the certificate of occupancy issued from our building code enforcement.
Dan? Do we know, I read through her letter the other day and I can't find it right now, but was there any information of where they're putting the camper? Is it behind the home or it's not up on the street?
No, it's on the street. It'll be located on their property.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be in the front.
It's out front on the side.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not anywhere where it's out near the road. Okay.
If I recall, it's not wide enough to get all the way in the backyard, but kind of be on the side and the front, but not all the way in the back.
Okay.
It's kind of in the front side, but not back.
I move to approve waiver of ordinance for Edith Santiago for a period not to exceed 6 weeks beginning August 6, 2024.
Second.
Have a motion and second to approve the request for the ordinance waiver. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Moving on to staff reports. Neil. Lloyd's not here, but Matt's here. Anything? Rodney?
Well, we're ready. We're getting there. Looks like we're getting really, really close to the north portion. They're finishing up sidewalk this week, putting in wheelchair ramps. They have most of the pedestals, light poles set, almost all of them set. They're getting really close to setting light poles. We got all the little flag poles painted, getting ready to set the flags. They're gonna get started on cleanup around the intersections, sweeping and trying to get some things cleaned up and prettied up. There is a ribbon cutting tentatively set for August 16th at 10 a.m. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Clark, that's going to be down around the 4th Meridian area. Donut shop maybe? Oh, there we go. Good choice. And then that would allow that to open up fully open up the traffic and on next that day. Thank you. South Meridian, it's going fast. They're tearing it up. They're laying down rock base, doing grading. Won't be long before they start to pour that lane. They're working on strategies for Ness. We had a good discussion today about Ness. That can't be treated like a driveway. Everybody always has to get in and out of that. That is a street. You can drive by that thing and it looks like a driveway, but it's a street. They were reminded of that. So they're feverishly working on strategies for that. On drainage, on golf, I have a meeting Thursday afternoon with the contractor to get started on that, to do a site review to get started on that. Somebody behind me was wanting to know.
I tell you, if I know these projects, we're gonna get done after I left the council. Oh, it's done after this now. Sorry.
Stand for question.
What's, Councilman, what's?
Meridian North project. Markings on the street. What would markings going to be looking like? Is it just going to be a center line on that street, or will there be other markings besides the center line for
Well, we had a
between
brief
Main?
discussion about that today. Right now, I think they'll just be markings down the center line, and then where there was crosswalks before, they'll paint those crosswalks back. Generally, it's repaint back what was there.
I know there's some citizens that are a little bit concerned about the little embutments that we have for cars parking besides the curbing, that they jet out and that people are going to hit them. And so I just wanted to know if there was going to be any markings that would help get around those.
We have.
Flashing lights.
You know, I gotta say something. I haven't talked enough throughout this whole agenda. And so, no, the issue is, so right now everyone doesn't, so you're driving on the far east side of that road that you're gonna drive right now. I mean, when the barricades are moved and you're actually driving closer to the center of the road where you're supposed to drive, I mean, if you hit those bulb outs, you shouldn't be driving. We should take your license away because you're gonna hit them no matter what we do. And so, when you're actually driving towards the center of the roadway, it drives like a completely different street. And so just envision that as you're driving, instead of gawking and looking, to the west and then hitting the curb on the east side or ramping it on 4th Street, like I've seen people do, which is wild. It's a wild thing. That, you're driving, almost 3 feet into the east side than what you will be when you're driving on the actual roadway itself. So it will roll just nicely. Also too, on that ribbon cutting, we just decided that this morning during our bi-weekly meeting, which is a great thing of reasoning why we have those bi-weekly fall and council nights. So then when, Rodney, you couldn't remember everything exactly, but for the ribbon cutting, we just decided today that that's when we're going to be able to open it to traffic, is after that 10 a.m. Friday, August 16th ribbon cutting. So once we cut the ribbon, get everybody cleared off, kind of like when Councilmember Colbert and I drove on the bypass for the first time, and we actually outran Commissioner Beatty. We drove faster than him. Remember that? We passed him. And so we'll be able to do that same thing down Meridian. So then once school's out on Friday, August 16th, they'll be able to be two-way traffic up and down the street for school let out. So that will happen on Friday, August 16th, pending any major issues that we encounter with painting lines or installing the school zone sign or the crosswalk sign. So,
or rain. Rain would be nice.
Hey, that'd be great. I think that everyone would love it if it rained and we could cancel it.
Ron?
Rodney, I got a question for you.
Okay.
I've noticed Second Avenue and Third Avenue is open during the daytime but closed at night. That's a-
Well, that could be simply because if they're working on sidewalks and approaches, handicap approaches and sidewalks and working on the areas right there that they don't want people driving through there. So they may have it open during the day when they're moving through, but at night, people could miss and get on those sidewalks.
It was a little strange. I was with a truck going down there. I thought it was a work truck. Road. Delivery truck.
Well, we're getting to the point where that's not going to be an issue. The other thing that everybody may be interested in is the brush pile. That will be open Friday on our new hours. Friday and Saturday only from 8 to 5. And that will start this Friday.
When they reseed that area on the rating, are they going to wait a little bit to do that till we get through this water restriction?
Yes.
There's temporary seeding now.
Okay.
And so we'll let them do temporary seeding, and then when they come back with final seeding, when they do the southern portion as well as this one, then we'll hold that back.
Gotcha.
And that's a good point, Councilman Beth. The city implemented their actions for water conservation as much as a week ago. So Neil's cut down the watering once a week. As far back as a week ago, we've literally stopped all of our hydrant maintenance programs. We're not out just flushing hydrants for maintenance. All of the water staff has been told that we will only flush to maintain residuals, to maintain water quality. And if they do go out to flush, they're to have a hydrant meter on that hydrant, and they're to stay there until the flushing's done. There's no starting flushing and running off and doing something else and then coming back later to do your residual. They will stay there. Once we reach the residual we need, we shut that water down.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to Pearson because I know when they got this bid, I was hesitant on them because they'd had problems in other communities and stuff on getting projects done, but they have knocked this one out of the park. And I just want to give them kudos on that.
Thank you. I would like to say too, as far as me, they've been fantastic. Every time I've given a request, they've responded. Zach's been great. Trash, they've been hauling trash carts through mud and water and rocks and whatnot, so trash can get picked up and then putting them back. Yeah, they've been fantastic. They've been falling all over themselves trying to make this thing work right.
I just have to piggyback on that. I happened to be out riding my bike up and down Meridian the last couple of weeks, and I've stopped and talked to many of the homeowners along Meridian, and every single one of them have been nothing but positive to say about the way everything went, about how their sidewalk was taken care of, how their yard was taken care of, how their house was taken care of, parking, getting access when they needed it. Very much appreciative, and they are beyond and just beyond what this turned out as already, even though we don't have trees yet, which they're excited about the trees to come back. But it's just been a great experience for them, from everybody I talked to.
Even with the cones and the barricades, if you look down there, Main Street, it looks bigger.
Yeah.
It just looks bigger.
They love the open space, by the way. Still want the trees back, but the open space is amazing.
Anything else?
Thank you, Rodney.
You bet.
Mr. Fieldler.
Yes, it's with great excitement that I get to introduce for his second day. He showed back up. So yesterday was his first day, but excited to introduce our new community development director, Kyle Fiedler.
It is a short joke for me. Gotta turn it down.
There you go. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Kyle Fiedler, excited to be here. I've known Brent for about 5 years. I previously met him and worked with the City Valley Center on the Prairie Lakes TIF district. When I was in Sedgwick County, TIFs was one of my roles there. So I reviewed it on the county side. I left the county, went to North Newton for 3 years before this position came available. Really excited Valley Center is about 4 times the size of North Newton, and there's a lot more going on as far as development. So I'm very excited to see stuff happening.
Welcome aboard. Here? Nothing? Barry? Clint?
Nothing, sir.
You see?
I have nothing.
Brent? Moving on to governing body reports. I have nothing else to add. Ron?
Yeah, I only have 2 things. First of all, thank you for the hard presentation. The second thing is, I'm a little impressed with the way the north side has developed in the last couple of years. I'm sure there's people in here that will agree with that we're getting favorable comments that the recreation center being brought in there now. The word has been out of the housing net. But the biggest thing, everybody's waiting for the date for the dirt to be moved to water. So this fall, we don't have any water coming down the street. Been in the yard for about 4 or 5 months. So I do appreciate that. And I appreciate everything that he has been doing. And taking my recommendations. That's a good one in some ways. So, thank you.
Robert?
I can't top anything Ron just said, so I have nothing.
Clint?
Nothing for me.
Ben?
I have nothing.
Gina?
Just want to throw something out for you to think about, and Christie's checking the legality of it. But it has occurred to me that when we ask a person to stand up there and say their name and address, that's going out on YouTube, and their address is being broadcast to everybody. So I'm thinking that maybe we can just ask them to state their name and maybe what ward they live in. That's just something for you to think about. Okay, thank you.
Matt?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Being adjourned.
That's